Hello, I'm Gray Laurel with Mountain Laurel Herbs and Ayurveda. Today we're going to delve into the beautiful lifestyle science of Ayurveda. For those of you who have never heard of it or have no clue how to pronounce it, and we'll soon get to that, and to those of you that have been tongue scraping and using pranayama and herbs to balance for years, there will be something for everyone. So let's start with the dreaded pronunciation of Ayurveda. So the way that I was taught was to think Veda. Ayurveda, as I mentioned before, is a lifestyle science, and in Sanskrit it literally breaks down to the science of life, or can also be translated as the knowledge of longevity. So the Vedas, as mentioned in the word Ayurveda, the Vedas were ancient spiritual texts that were developed with divine inspiration to the rishis, or holy ones, through observation of nature and through deep practices of meditation. The Vedas and the information in the Vedas were passed down first orally, but then finally recorded around 1500 BCE, and they delineate the 8 branches of medicine that are mentioned in Ayurveda. The Vedas are the first to mention Ayurveda, although it is believed to even predate these texts, making it about 5,000 years old. Ayurveda is the world's oldest medicine, and it is the basis for both allopathic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. Now, allopathic or modern medicine tends to focus on symptoms and relief of symptoms through targeted therapies. However, they can sometimes cause side effects and further imbalance in the body. Both traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda focus on creating balance in the body with the understanding of the various elements of nature, how they show up, and their effect upon us. Ayurveda focuses on the 5 elements from most subtle to most dense. They are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. All of creation is made up of these 5 elements to varying degrees, and likewise, all of life has an undercurrent of energy running through it known as prana. Now let's go into depth with each of these elements and look at their different properties and how they show up in our body. The first most subtle element, ether, space, the essence of emptiness, consciousness. Its qualities are light, dry, cold, clear, subtle, and expansive. Like the universe, which is in a constant state of expansion, so is the collective consciousness and the vibrations that flow through the ethers. Ether can be seen in the body as the cavities or the spaces between. Let's imagine that we have someone that's feeling spacey in their head and their stomach is empty, too much ether. Ayurveda uses opposite action to create balance, so we would suggest something that's moist, grounding, and nourishing to dispel the excess ether with its polar opposite element of earth. It's easy to think of something like a sweet potato as earthy or grounding, coming straight from the ground, or an oil like cedar wood, which is also grounding, or a yoga practice that is low to the ground and focuses on the base of our spine or our root chakra, keeps us centered and rooted and grounded. These are all examples of ways to balance the excess ether in the body. From ether in motion, we get air. Air is primarily characterized by movement. You can see its mobility through the way wind would blow through the leaves on the tree, or the way that it just deflated this balloon. In addition to creating movement or mobility, air also is cool, light, dry, rough, subtle, flowing, sharp, clear, and hard. We can imagine the coolness of air as a gentle sea breeze coming off of the ocean, cooling us while we're on the warm beach. We can think about its light and subtle nature, a balloon drifting through it or birds gliding through it. We can see that it's clear, that it has no color to it. It's a little bit harder to imagine its hard or sharp nature, but if you think about the wind, bitter cold winter wind blowing up against your face and your ears, you can imagine its hard and sharp features. Air is seen in the body through, of course, respiration, but also in any process that involves movement. the pumping of our heart, the communication of our nerves, created through sensations and thoughts, and our muscles moving in sync as we flow through a series of yoga postures. Too much air in the body can be seen as feeling scattered. The term airheaded comes to mind, or as having gas from poor digestion. We can counter the air in the head, the spaciness, with a root very popular in Ayurveda known as ashwagandha. And we can counter the gas from the poor digestion with the beautiful root of ginger, which will warm and strengthen the digestion. As air moves more and more quickly, it creates friction and heat, creating the element of fire. Fire still bears some similarities to the properties of air, with its subtle, light, mobile, dry, clear, hard, sharp properties. But its main property that defines it, of course, is its heat. The element of fire can be associated with transformation. Its ability, for example, to turn wet clay into a beautiful ceramic bowl. We can imagine metaphorical life transformations after going through the refiner's fire of tough times. The ability of heat on our stomach acids and enzymes to break down a whole food and transform it into absorbable nutrients shows the properties of transformation and fire in the body. In Ayurveda, we refer to the health of our digestion in terms of the strength of one's digestive fire, or Agni. Strong Agni is a good indicator of overall health. When someone has excess fire in the body, however, we can see it through the inflammation of a skin rash, or someone becoming hot-headed and losing their temper, having too much acid in the stomach, cause acid reflux, or heartburn. To balance this excess fire, we need the coolness of earth or water. Think about putting some aloe vera or a cool compress on that rash, or taking some deep cooling breaths. The smell of calming earthy lavender, or putting cool watery cucumbers on the eyes to calm irritability. If we combine the previous three elements, we get the fourth element of water. As fire causes the air to become dense, water is created. Water is mobile, cool, soft, smooth, liquid, dull, unctuous, heavy, cloudy, and gross. Gross meaning that it's tangible from the material plane and that we can touch it. Water is the primary element in our body, making up more than half of our body. We can see water in our bodily fluids, like the saliva in our mouth, the blood flowing through our veins and arteries, the liquid that protects the stomach lining and the mucous membranes, and the synovial fluid that lubricates our joints as we move. Water creates downward movement and is cleansing. When it's in excess, we can see it in the body as swelling or edema, or respiratory congestion through mucus. To counter these, we need to call in elements that employ tools that are drying and clearing. For edema, drinking some diuretic herbs like dandelion tea, or employing any kind of exercise that's sweat-inducing could be balancing. And for the respiratory congestion, we could eat foods that have some heat to them, for example, sprinkling some cayenne pepper on your food, or asafoetida, or choosing lighter drying foods like chickpeas and potatoes to heat or dry and clear the excess congestion. When you sprinkle some cosmic dust into the mix of other four elements, you get our last element of earth. Earth is heavy, dull, static, dense, gross, cool, hard, rough, and cloudy. It creates structure and stability, gives us stable ground to walk on, and makes us feel rooted and connected to the earth and its inhabitants. Earth provides underlying structure and foundation that allows for the growth and development of tissues within the body. Earth element is related to the principle of inertia, or resistance to movement or change. We can imagine how too much of this element could negatively affect a person with excess earth element. Becoming stuck, depressed, attached, clingy, slow, or sedentary. To combat these properties, we can encourage movement through exercise, trying new things, and eating foods that are light and stimulating. The rishis observed these principles of nature and the properties of the elements and noticed some specific combinations of them, which they coined the doshas. All of us contain all of the 5 elements within us, but we contain them within varying degrees, which gives us a unique body type and personality. The first dosha is Vata, which is a pairing of ether and air. Our second dosha is Pitta. Pittas are a combination of fire and water. And then last, Kapha. Our Kapha doshas are a combination of water and earth. As we see from delving into the elements, we can see that each of them had unique properties. As we went through them, we described them. And now when you're pairing 2 of them together, you're going to get a specific type. Our unique constitution or makeup, or dosha, is established at the moment of our conception. This dosha is called our prakriti. That's who we are at our core. That's our true self, our original constitution. But as we are living our life and are influenced by various things, what we eat, what sights our eyes consume, what paths we choose to take, the energy of those around us, the herbs that we use, the type of movement that we choose, and the thoughts that we allow to direct our life, all affect our exact combination of elements at any given time. This type of dosha is called our Vikriti. That's our current state. It's where we are, which may be in balance and in tune with our Prakriti, or our true self, our original state, or it might be a little out of balance, and some of the elements might be showing up more than they should, causing, if it's heat, too much heat could cause inflammation. If it's too much dampness, it could cause a yeast infection. We can see how an imbalance of these elements, as we discussed earlier, can cause various symptoms. And our goal in Ayurveda is to get our clients back into balance and reduce these symptoms and live in accordance with our original state of balance and be able to carry out our dharma, or our life's work. Let's look more closely at each of the doshas, and I bet you'll recognize yourself in them or someone that you know. Vata was the first one. Vata, again, is a combination of ether and of air. Properties of these 2 elements combined are light, cold, dry, mobile, subtle, clear, and rough. As far as a body type, you can imagine the lightness of Vata having a lighter frame. They are typically tall and thin, or more petite with smaller features. Vata types have little insulation, and so they are typically cold. Between their lighter frames and their lightness of spirit, they are usually spontaneously moving and creating. They are the artist and the idea makers. They're often bubbly and talkative, usually moving and expressing with their hands even when they're just talking. They can fidget, they can be anxious and have a hard time staying grounded or following through with their ideas. They are easily distractible and prone to nervous digestion. They can be energetic, but their energy might run out quickly, and they can have fatigue or sometimes insomnia if out of balance. They are balanced by employing modalities and tools that are unctuous, warming, and grounding. Next, we have our Pitta types. Now, Pitta doshas are, remember, a combination of the 2 elements of fire and of water. Those elements combined give us properties like light, hot, unctuous, mobile, liquid, and sharp. Pitta types are usually medium-sized with proportionate features. They can have piercing or sparkling eyes. They have athletic builds, sometimes fair and freckled skin. They are the doers of the world. They have a strong sense of justice. They like to affect change. They are very logical, organized, and passionate. Their fiery nature. They have a strong appetite. They can tend to get hangry if they skip a meal. They are efficient. They can be intense, competitive, determined. There are type A's, are perfectionists. They're typically very intelligent and make great leaders. If they become out of balance, they can become irritable, cutting, and sharp. Their notoriously strong digestion is usually going to make it where they can eat just about anything and do fine, but if they get too much fire element going, they can get imbalances of heartburn, indigestion, and acid reflux. It can also show up as inflammation in the body in other ways, joints, skin rashes, things of that nature. And our Pitta types are balanced by modalities that are both cooling and soothing in nature. And the last dosha is our Kapha dosha. Kapha types, remember, are a combination of the elements of water and of earth. So together, these two elements create characteristics that are heavy, cold, unctuous, stable, gross, cloudy, smooth, slow, soft, liquid, and dense. Kapha types are generally larger, rounder, softer, with a broader frame, broader facial features, and rounder facial features. They are the nurturers and protectors of the world. They're usually easygoing, calm, loving, patient, loyal, and stable. They're the ones that can take the Vata ideas and steadily plod along, tending to the details behind the scene. They don't like to have the spotlight on them and are often quiet and thoughtful, only speaking up when they feel they have something important to say. They tend to withdraw if things get heated or there's conflict ahead. They love engaging their senses, and this can be through things like soft textures or beautiful smells, tasty foods. They can sometimes be known to overconsume. They can become attached or clingy or stuck in their bad habits or thoughts. As you can see through molasses is something that has some Kapha-like qualities to it. It is slow. It's going to take its sweet time coming out of the jar. It's sticky. It's sweet, and it's dense. Slow, steady, sweet molasses. Very Kapha-like. So maybe you recognized yourself or one of your loved ones in these descriptions. Perhaps one of them pegged you to a T, or perhaps you can see a combination of a couple of them within yourself. We all have some of each dosha within us and of each element within us, the specific recipe from birth being different, and the elemental levels fluctuating throughout our lives. The key is to recognize where we are and create balance when we see deficiencies or excess. An Ayurvedic health counselor or practitioner can guide you through assessments and making balancing recommendations. If you'd like more information or to schedule a consultation, you can reach me at Mountain Laurel Herbs and Ayurveda, gray@mountainlaurel@gmail.com, or you can call or text me at 727-488-3327. Thank you, and wishing you wellness and balance. Namaste.